Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Or Books live on Avenue C. My name is Olivia Heffernan. I work for Or Books, which is headquartered right behind that projector right there through the arched doorways. Or Books is a small, alternative, independent publishing house. What we do is we seek to challenge hegemonic narratives and encourage dissent and alternatives, both through our content and the way that we do business. We do that through publishing people like Julian Assange, like Zizek, like Eileen Miles, like Rifat Al-Alir, and in the case of tonight, like Ted Ham, the author of Run, ZOHRAN, Run, which you're here for the launch of that, followed by a debate watch party. And Run, ZOHRAN, Run was conceived early this year, despite the New York Post's reporting that we wrote this book in a week with AI. Actually, it was written over many months, and it was a lot of Ted's hard work. And at its conception, we had no idea that a 33-year-old, non-white, non-Christian person would be our likely mayor in just a couple of weeks. And so it's been really exciting and special to be the publishers of this book, the first real book on Zohran Mamdani. And we're excited that you all are here tonight to celebrate that with us. A few notes. So we share this space with the Francis Kite Club, and the Francis Kite Club is running a membership drive, and it's $18 a month. If you join, you get discounts on drinks and invites to special events like this one and others tonight. We hope you come to other Live on Avenue C events that we have throughout this month. And that you stick around and watch the debate. We'll have pizza at 7 p.m. for those of you that want to stay with us. So I'm going to introduce Ted, who is the author of this book. Theodore Ham is his full name. He's also a previous Or Books author of Bernie's Brooklyn. And he'll be in conversation with Liza Featherstone, who is also a past book Or Books author, and she's also a Jacobin columnist, and has extensively covered the rise of Zohran Mamdani and his campaign. So I'll have them come up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. And it's an honor to be here talking about Run, ZOHRAN, Run, which couldn't be better timed for the what has so far been the most exciting piece of New York City political history that I think we've ever seen, certainly in my lifetime. And you know, if you go back and somebody can mention various other, leftist political campaigns that were great, and mostly they lost. So, knock on wood, I think this time might be different. So, this is Ted did a lot of work on this, and it is really it's a good extensive piece of reporting. I have been reporting on Zohran since he ran for assembly the first time in 2020, and I learned things I didn't know. So it is definitely a work that you are going to want to get your hands on before the end of the evening. Ted, let's go way back. Who is Zohran Mamdani, and where did this guy come from?
Okay, well, he came from Uganda.
Okay, but
South Asian diaspora in Uganda.
Like a little bit of storytelling here. Okay. Like, how did we get here?
Okay, well, his father was teaching in Kampala, Uganda, and of course he's internationally renowned Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, and his mother came there while doing research for the film that became Mississippi Masala. So Mira Nair.
And his father is
Mahmoud Mamdani.
Right.
Yes, internationally renowned scholar of anti-colonialism, decolonization in Africa and elsewhere. He was there. Zohran was there until he was 7 years old, when he moved to the United States, and he turned 8 soon after they arrived. Prior to coming to the United States, they had lived in South Africa when Nelson Mandela was president, so he has a particular affinity for Nelson Mandela, as many of you know from his speech on primary night. And then the family settled in Morningside Heights near Columbia, while his father where he remains a distinguished professor at Columbia amid the chaos. So he then went to a school called the Bank Street School, and from there went to Bronx Science, and he was a soccer star. He was played captain of the cricket club, playing teams from across the city, South Asian teams, Trinidadians, Guyanese, and so on. He had a childhood. He describes it as comfortable, upper middle class. Didn't all of his material needs were met. Right? He doesn't make any. Doesn't try to pretend that he was working class or anything like that. But he certainly is. There's plenty of people with that background in New York City who are social workers, teachers, working in the nonprofit sector, all kinds of different people who come from relatively privileged backgrounds, but still understand the needs of people below them on the social pecking order.
Mm-hmm. So, how did he get into politics?
Well, we can ask you. I mean, you were there.
I know, but it's your book, Dad.
I know. So, he started the first full-fledged campaign he worked on was in Bay Ridge. Kader El-Yateem running for city council against Justin Brannan, a progressive Democrat, sort of a de Blasio Democrat. So it was like basically two left-leaning candidates, and Kader El-Yateem was a DSA member, and they supported his candidacy, and so that was Zohran was becoming acquainted with the DSA there, and that campaign did not succeed. Justin Brannan won. He's an ally of Mamdani at this point.
Yeah.
And in 2018, he then managed Ross Barkan's run for state senate, and that didn't pan out. But he was managing the campaign, so he's really, according to Ross, he says that Zohran's his philosophy was never sit down. Mm-hmm. Right, keep moving, and that's sort of the leads to our title. Run Zohran Run. He's on the move. He's got incredible amounts of resolve and energy and stamina, and ran the marathon twice and all kinds of stuff. He's got, but his team is in awe of the amount of energy he has.
Can you talk a little bit about what inspired him, though? Like what sort of ideas inspired him to go into politics?
Marxist revolution. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's democratic socialism, right? It's a redistributing wealth. I mean, he's if you listen to Cuomo or the New York Post or the screeching critics, this is Trump, right? He's the little communist now, or whatever he calls them. So, right. I mean, it's democratic socialism. It's Bernie's agenda, an outgrowth of Bernie's 2 runs in 2016. Zohran has been very open about that.
I think that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
He always talks about that.
Sure.
That he was pretty active in college in Students for Justice in Palestine. So, he was obviously brought up talking about politics around the dinner table. But he always says that when he heard Bernie speak about democratic socialism and what we all deserve, the sort of basic comforts that we all deserve, that sort of gave a name to his values, and also was, and I think many young people, many people of his generation in DSA experienced that was the first time that they could see themselves in the electoral political system.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders.
Sure, and he takes some stylistic cues from Bernie.
Yes.
Always
Yeah, talk about
circling
that.
back to his message, right? So it's
Yeah.
everything's about affordability.
Yeah.
Right. When he first launched his campaign a year ago, this month, he was criticizing Eric Adams for his corruption, the federal charges, but he was saying that Eric Adams was distracted by fighting his own corruption charges. He was distracted from meeting the needs of everyday New Yorkers and the affordability crisis. Right? So
Yeah.
everything just kind of circles back to affordability. That's something that Bernie is
Yeah.
known for, staying on message. And then
And Bernie has been doing that for 50 years.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty tireless on message.
And he also takes a cue from Bernie in that Zohran's much more openly celebrates diversity of all kinds, trans, for example, identification or trans rights and so on. But he doesn't. His message is universal. Right? The policies he's talking about are not tailored to one specific group. They would benefit multiple groups across the political spectrum.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is a really important point, though, that he really seems to understand what New York is all about. Yes, the most fundamental thing to talk about is that New Yorkers need a city that we can all afford, but also New York is immigrants. New York is gay people. New York is trans people, and he really celebrates that.
Sure.
In a way that is just, that is sort of beyond we should, all minorities deserve safety and tolerance, which is, just sort of the sort of regular and less inspiring way to do that.
And they also, I don't mention this so much in the book because it more applies to the general election, but they also celebrate history, New York City's history, in ways that people who have been part of that history, like Andrew Cuomo, the only thing he celebrates about New York's history is Mario Cuomo was the governor, and I'm Andrew Cuomo, and you remember Mario, right? But it's not like they're celebrating various aspects of New York City's social movements and things like that. It's just the Cuomo family legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of that, you have so much to add to your book when you revise it. Because, for instance...
We're revising it as we speak. Writing the second edition as we speak. Yeah.
The scavenger hunt?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to describe that?
Well, that was at the end of August. I mean, some of you may have been out of town,
it's
but
unfortunate.
it's not in this book, but it'll be in the next one. But yeah, there was a scavenger hunt where they went around to various locations. His followers went to Jimmy Walker State Park and looked at the mayor known for his corruption during the Great Depression, letting the Tammany Hall hacks steal the relief money, and so on. Right? And the John Lindsay running track at East River Park, and so on. So, getting acquainted with New York City's history, legacy, and so on, ending at the Fiorello LaGuardia, or the Little Flower Cafe in Astoria, and the Little Flower was Fiorello LaGuardia's nickname. And so on. So, so that's really kind of exciting for history-oriented folks like us.
So, something I think, I mean, you meet, various, left-wing leaders, and they have, ambitions of various kinds. It's pretty unusual that somebody wants to be the mayor of New York City, like somebody of Zohran's politics and also of his gifts. I mean, if you look at the crowded mayoral primaries, they've generally been very uninspiring. They don't attract the best talent of the city. I mean, one of the things that's fairly exceptional about him is that he's somebody who could really be doing a lot of different things, and he is trying to be mayor of New York City. Why is that?
Well, I think he's genuinely committed to his agenda and the movement and the...
Can you talk about that agenda?
The agenda,
the platform specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's the rent freeze, it's fast and free buses, it's universal child care, city-run grocery stores, and Department of Community Safety that's going to reorganize the police department. So I think people were following the campaign. You probably heard bits and pieces of that. But, so I think he's he's quite committed to that agenda, and he is an activist too. I mean, right, even when he took office as an assembly member, he was participating soon afterwards in pro-Palestine protests and other protests, right? So, the New York City DSA is they have issues that they're pushing, and now he's their figurehead, and they're going to be one of many groups influencing what happens in his administration if and when he wins.
So, can you talk a little bit about his time in assembly, and what was that like? What did he accomplish?
Well,
what kind of assembly member was he?
I mean, that's depends who you ask, right? I mean, Cuomo goes, "Hey, you only passed 3 bills and all this other stuff." But
Jessica Ramos talked my ear off on that topic on at least one occasion. Like, he never accomplished anything, but he was only there a few years.
Right.
But there are some. He did some pretty interesting things.
Sure. Well, they were pushing the walking while trans. Decriminalization of sex work that particularly was NYPD was particularly targeting trans people, just basically accusing them of loitering and for the purpose of prostitution and so on. So he was certainly a leading figure with that, those reforms. And then he also, he and Mike Gianaris, a state senator from Astoria, they funded the pilot program for free buses. Right, so that is a model for what he's been advocating, a free bus plan, which he also says points to Boston under Michelle Wu and other places that have done launched similar programs, right? So that's one thing he was definitely emphasizing in the interviews that I did with him, is that his policy, the stuff he's looking at, policies that have worked elsewhere, right, which is not how New York City typically operates, right? We usually say, we're New York, we're going to do, here's the policy, and if we can claim it's a success, then that's our signature policy, and that's what it is, right? So broken windows policing is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And he's saying, no, we're going to look at what other cities are doing, like Newark, New Jersey, for example, right? Mental health teams doing outreach to people in need and emotional distress and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and that's actually you're touching on his community safety plan.
Right.
So when Zohran first announced this plan to run for mayor, and actually as he got closer to winning the mayoralty, I think a lot of people were a little bit nervous that. That if there was an uptick in crime or something like that, that would be the New York Post and all kinds of right wingers would seize upon that and say, see, this is the sort of squalor that you get from socialism, but the criminal justice plan is pretty sensible. Can you actually say a little bit about what it is?
Right. Well, so he had in the past given statements of support for defund the police, but defund the police, depending on who was using the phrase, some people were prison abolitionists who were legitimately wanting to zero out the budgets for police departments. And some were saying...
So here you're referring to the Black Lives Matter movement call to defund the police, which Zohran did support during that time.
Right, but there was another wing of that movement, criminal justice reform movement, was saying, let's reallocate money from police budgets to mental health programming, right? And so that's really what his platform is advocating. And it actually stems from stuff that Tiffany Caban was proposing in 2019 in her run for Queens DA. And one of the things that the DSA, local DSA, will emphasize is that even though they lost that race in 2019, which Zohran was a volunteer, very committed volunteer working on that campaign, that gave them the sense that they could go for a higher office, right?
Because it was very close.
Yeah.
She only lost by 60 votes.
Right. I mean, but she only got 35,000. I mean, that shows you how small that race was. And now he got 470,000 first place votes in June. And after the ranked choice, it was close to 600,000, and so on. So that's the scale. They just scaled up so quickly, so dramatically. It's pretty remarkable. It's hard to wrap my head around. The canvassing operation was going to neighborhoods I never heard of. I mean, I've lived here over 25 years. I never heard of some of these neighborhoods in the city they were going to, right? And they just had scores, thousands upon thousands of volunteers. I think the latest number I saw now is 87,000 volunteers. So that's unheard of. And there's however many canvases going out on the weekends, and it's an amazing operation in so many respects.
Yeah, it really is. What do you make of that? Why has that been so successful?
Well, the momentum. I mean, I think that's like part of the progression of the book is tracking the campaign, using social media to get name recognition, and then advancing the agenda, the message, right? And then the volunteers are going to people's doors and delivering the message. And so one point I like to make is that, the mainstream Democrats who want to emulate Mamdani's campaign, they have to have a message, right? So if you go and knock on the door and you don't have a message and you just say, Trump sucks, and Trump really sucks, they have nothing to offer people in terms of an affirmative agenda, and they're not going to get anywhere with that. So all of those facets of aspects of Mamdani's campaign, they all kind of fuse together, right? So you have a compelling, charismatic, creative team, a figurehead with a creative team, and then the committed volunteers, and then a easily delivered message that they could present when they knocked on people's doors or encountered them in farmers markets or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, in terms of that, though, like, why do you think that so many people have showed up to volunteer?
Well, I think Trump, the unease and anxiety and fear and wanting to just do something to take action, and make it happen locally. I mean, that's always why I've been much more focused on local politics than
feel that
national
myself.
Politics, right? Because it's all around us, right? It's like the people you want to see. Sometimes you run into these people on the subway or in the street, the people who are making these decisions, and so I just like it. And obviously New York sets the model for elsewhere in the United States, and that sort of thing. But I think that's a big part of it is that people want to do something, right? And I think there's a large sense that the extreme concentrations of wealth, right? Talking about trillionaires now, right? That it's time to spread that around a little bit. I think that applies not just to activists. The activist left, I think, mainstream liberals are pretty much recognizing that fact. And so just the way things have been playing out in with Trump and Musk on wreaking havoc and capitalizing at the same time, people are like, wait a minute, this is not what we want. We want them to share the wealth. Yeah.
I mean, we noted earlier the Bernie effect that Zohran was part of. Do you think there will be a Zohran effect, or are we already seeing that?
I think we will. Yes, I think we will.
And what might that look like?
Well, I think it's going to extend for quite a while, right? I mean, assuming he wins and then has some success, he's already got untold numbers of teenagers who love him and are thinking about their next moves in their lives and so on. And I think a lot of them will go into political organizing and electoral politics and so on. And so I think that we're going to see a generation of Zohran inspired people coming onto the scene.
Yeah, and we're already seeing. There are candidates running with on the DSA platform in Jersey City and Hudson Valley. There was already Hudson Valley, but there are more. Poughkeepsie.
Sure. Although some of those places don't have huge amounts of wealth to spread around, but
No, I mean, they can't.
right.
They,
So you have
they-
to tailor the message to the local situations, right?
But they have predatory energy companies, they have high electric bills,
Yeah.
and there are solutions, there are social solutions to those problems.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think it's one size fits all, or you know,
Yeah.
you have to tailor the agenda to whatever the particular circumstances are,
It's true.
and the
it's true.
demographics, right?
Yeah.
Whatever groups are in these regions.
Yeah, we have some rich people to soak, that's for sure. We really do. I don't. I could go on and on asking you questions, but I want to make sure that the everyone else gets a turn to ask Ted some questions about this book before we turn our attention to the debate itself. Any questions?
I appreciate you guys talking and you writing the book. Was there anything unique that you learned about Zohran during your writing, or anything that you feel we might not know?
He's fueled by peanut butter and banana smoothies.
Something that I didn't know after that I thought was really a fun detail from the book was how he practiced and how he practiced for the debate. And that's something sort of fun to like talk about right now as
Sure.
we're getting ready to see. I mean, that was like, yeah, that was really fun. To
Right.
read
So
about.
the first debate, they had actors playing Cuomo and Whitney Tilson and some of the other people, who I say looks like Steve Martin in The Jerk, if you remember.
Which is so true. Yeah.
Because he is a jerk. But the second debate, which led to the viral moment, it was Andrew
So,
Epstein.
yeah, you will explain the viral
Yeah.
moment though, because not everybody
Right.
will know.
Well, it would build up to
Okay.
so Andrew Epstein was playing Cuomo, and Andrew Epstein was the communications director during the primary. Now he's the creative director during the general election. But his deputy, Leka Sunder, she kept saying to Andrew, needle him on. Mangle his name. Just keep mangling his name. And so Andrew really got under his skin, you know, mangalarani, whatever Cuomo does, right? And that inspired Zohran's the viral moment in the
Because
second debate.
it really made him mad.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the coaching, he got really mad.
Yeah, right. So it got him worked up, and he was ready for it, and then he spelled it out. And I make the case that people on the campaign agreed with, which is that the race was over after that second debate, because 2 days later, people went to the polls in great numbers, and it was just like the wave had begun. And, you know, whatever else happened, there was a lot of stuff that happened in the 10 days of early voting through the primary, but it was really that was the turning point, right? Or that was a decisive blow, because the internet went crazy with people loving that moment of ridicule.
So for those who don't know it, I know this event is being filmed for people in another country, and you know, some people here might not have seen this moment itself, but in that viral moment, he goes on a tirade about everything that is
Right.
terrible about Andrew Cuomo.
Well, not everything. You can't quite do that.
No, but it's a really succinct summary.
Yeah.
Like
Highlights, yeah.
You know that Cuomo mispronounces Mamdani's name as anticipated, which is really strange because it's phonetic.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
I mean, it's just like you have to be just really trying to be racist.
You're right.
I mean, because it's not a different. It's you know,
Right.
it's much harder to pronounce, like, I don't know, a French name.
Right,
Or,
sure.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not hard to pronounce a name that is like spelled the way it sounds. But anyway, so Andrew Cuomo, you know, he goes after him on the experience question.
Right.
and then he
repeatedly.
and and also calling him Mandani or whatever,
Right.
and he lists all the things that Cuomo actually did, and said, I did not harass women. I did not sue those women for their
Steal money from the
gynecological records. I did not kill old people in nursing homes. So, he just goes, and I did not do those things because I am not you. And then he spells the name. It's Mamdani, and then he says, and you better get used to saying
We got to get it right. We got to get it right.
But you better get used to
because
saying it.
But then there was some people thought he was about to say, because I'm gonna be the mayor, right?
No, it's a self-correction.
Yeah.
It's a self-correction.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to be that
Yeah,
arrogant in
right.
that moment. So it's like it's a little muffled at the end, but it's anyway. So that was the sort of coaching that led
Sure.
to this brilliant viral moment, and I enjoyed reading about that because it's you think with something like that oh wow this is like genius man in history, but there's always a team.
Right.
And
Definitely.
that's and it was actually so cool
Yeah.
to read your reporting on that moment and realize that too was a collective a product of collective creativity, like imagining what stupid racist thing Andrew Cuomo is going to do and how we can absolutely make the most of it.
And it's also a nod to Muhammad Ali, because of the famous
that's right.
fight where Muhammad Ali is taunting a challenger, Ernie Terrell, who went out of his way not to call him Cassius Clay, would not to call him Muhammad Ali, and so say my name, right? So it's kind of reference. That was the reference there.
Yeah. Do you have a question? Yes.
Oh, yes.
Doug.
So,
You have a question?
what do you make of what's going to happen to the Democratic Party as a result of this? Because I was just looking at predicted, they said there's a 75% chance that Schumer would endorse. The Democratic establishment, Jeffries is certain that it's not going to do. Hochul is an interesting exception. But what do you think is going to happen? Should he win and should he show some signs of success?
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, Schumer. I think it's closer to 90. Well, unless they really see that he's going to run away with it, then they'll just make a 11th hour endorsement, Schumer and Jeffries. But yeah, I mean, obviously Jeffries and Schumer are worried about the donor class and how that may affect Democrats across the country in the more moderate Democrats that they prefer, right? But I think if Mamdani wins with a strong margin, and he's obviously a much more inspiring figure than either of those two or many others of them on the moderate or the ranks, right? So that he's going to have this national and international backing, right? So then he also has people who would come out and into the streets for him, right? That's something that would apply if Trump tries to wreak havoc. Then Mamdani also has these people, committed volunteers or committed and supporters who would come out and protest, right? So it's he has a lot of power potentially that he can wield, and I don't know if they're so entrenched that Jeffries and Schumer in terms of their commitment to corporate Democrats, as pro-Israel Democrats, right? So it's hard to say. I don't know. I'm a historian.
I mean, one thing is that that I think they might also be seeing that the capitalist class bowing to the reality of Zohran a little bit. I mean, like Jamie Dimon said today that he would work with Zohran.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's been a little bit of an acceptance that this is the reality that is happening, so we're going to go with it. And we've seen that in other countries where socialists or democratic socialists or social democrats have had power, that we've seen that as as much as some of us may like it, the capitalist class doesn't just shrivel up and die. But then again, they often do adapt to the situation. And so it's sort of a it's always like a pivotal moment, right? Do they will they do capital strikes? Will they really go all out, or will they adapt? And some of them have been giving signals that they will adapt.
Right. Well, in terms of a capital strike, I mean, they need New York City to function.
Of
right?
course
the corporate
they do.
headquarters of the world,
Of
essentially.
course they
right.
do.
So they don't want things to devolve into total chaos. But
Yeah.
Trump, who knows what he wants, right? But it changes
Yeah.
by the minute. But
What I just meant to say
Well,
is that I think that some of the early signals by the capitalists may be might be reassuring to some of those Democratic leaders.
Mhm.
But
one more question. Yep.
What are these conversations with the police been about? Have you been talking to the police?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
really
a
good question.
Question about his conversations he's having with the police. I mean, I don't know the exact extent of those conversations. I know he's talking about his Department of Community Safety, and that involves the police have to agree to that, and that's something that the NYPD doesn't like to give up power. Right. That's just how they operate. So that's why he needs somebody who's a committed reformer. And there's a relentless amount of discussion of Jessica Tisch, current commissioner, staying on. She's 1% to the core, right? And why that it's so essential that she stays as commissioner is just like this bargaining chip that the city elite seems to have, but it doesn't seem to be working, right? I don't. There's the latest stories are listing people he's talking to about as becoming his next commissioner, and it's not her. And then you hear her mentors, Bill Bratton and Ray Kelly, they're talking up like there's going to be this mass walkouts by the rank and file, the forces. They're not going to work for Mamdani, and that's just like them trying to stoke fears because they're losing their control, right? The two figureheads who've been basically held sway over the police department for the last since the Giuliani era, right? And now Tisch is their protege, and she doesn't seem to be the future, right? So things are changing, but we'll see how it plays out after November 4th. One more question from
Yes.
Andrew.
Yeah, I don't mean to be too morbid, but a lot of us have worried about whether he can stay alive.
I worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, how can you maintain a profile of being a man of the people and a very public presence and mingle in public environments without being assassinated?
So Andrew's asking whether his safety and whether the people. There are death threats against Mamdani, and he doesn't do nearly as many public events as he did in the primary, and he has to be his NYPD security detail is around him in one fashion or another. Even like he was on New York 1 walking down the street in Astoria, and you see this SUV. Where he's walking with Errol Lewis, and there's an SUV like trickling down the street right beside them, right? So it's nothing as nearly as spontaneous as it once was. And that's obviously a concern, and all of us hope that nothing like that happens. But they have to make sure these is in safe precautions as much as possible. One example I use is that on January 1st of this year, he did the Coney Island plunge, made a viral video, right? It was just him and Andrew Epstein, the two of them at Coney Island. Andrew filmed it, then ZOHRAN jumped in the water in his suit. He got out and held their stuff while Andrew took a dip, right? So ZOHRAN on January 1st of this year was standing on the beach at Coney Island shivering in a wet suit, a wet business suit, right? And January 1st is when the new mayor is going to be inaugurated. He ain't going to be at Coney Island. He ain't going to be in a wet $30 suit from an Astoria thrift store. So
Yeah.
a lot has changed in 1 year, less than 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a good reason to worry that he could be the target of violence, and the campaign is certainly being a lot more careful. You have to RSVP to everything to get the address. Like I've just like been noticing that, like that it's more steps to cover an event. It's more steps to attend an event, but he certainly is getting out and about anyway.
Yeah.
And he has said a number of times that 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 he can't let the fear of that stop him, and that he doesn't
The one maniac that I wrote, there was a scene in the book from Sunset
Yes.
Park. That guy was just stalking him the other day, right? So these guys, they're fanatics, right? And they are dangerous. So we just have to hope that the security detail can do their job, and nothing like that happens. There's no way we can predict what will happen. But
yeah.
all right, so get ready for the debate.
All right.
All right,
Thank you so
thank you.
much, and buy the book.
Thank you. Thank you, Liza.
So, as Liza mentioned, please buy the book. It's up front. Ted will stay here and sign any copies if you're interested. Pizza should be arriving any moment, and we're just going to have a moment of transition as I get the debate on the screen here. But yeah, get a drink, hang around. Thanks for coming.